There has been a philosophical conundrum from the dire wolves that were brought back. Today is May 22nd, so like a month ago, there are some dire wolves brought back. But here's the thing about extinct animals. So there is a subgenre of erotic literature about mostly women fucking dinosaurs, right? And the reason why that's not considered obscene materials is because it's not bestiality, because the animal's extinct. It's not considered bestiality if it's an extinct animal, right?
So
a dire wolf,
like
definition.
Okay.
No, what? No, like for publication, for publication.
Still, I feel like you're making this up.
I watched an interview with a guy who writes dinosaur erotica, and he talks about how it's easier to publish because there's less obscenity laws about it, and you can write about unicorns and Bigfoot because they're not real animals. But as soon as it becomes a real animal, it's bestiality.
Dinosaurs were real animals.
So yes, but they don't count because they're not around anymore. And so dire wolves, right? So if you published 6 months ago a book about people fucking dire wolves, it would have been not bestiality because they would have been extinct. But now, does Colossus bringing the dire wolves back make this hypothetical book obscene material? Because now it's bestiality. I've been thinking about this for a couple days now. As I put this in the chat several days ago.
When you messaged us on like Tuesday saying there's something I need to say when we record, the thing that you've been waiting days to tell us is asking us whether or not the hypothetical scenario that they bring the dire wolves back means that some literature subgenre is now bestiality.
Yes. And I think asking Colossus that, so like there's this big conversation about whether they actually
send him an email.
There's this big conversation about like whether they actually brought back the dire wolf or they're just gray wolves that happen to be bigger.
They're gray wolves that they've modified the genetics of.
Yes. And so
which is not the same thing as bringing back a dinosaur.
Yes. And so if they're just gray wolves that they changed the genetics of, then that novel that was about fucking dire wolves would still not be bestiality because the dire wolves are still extinct. But if they are actual dire wolves, then dire wolves are now an actual animal, and the animal would be obscene material because it would be bestiality. Welcome to Overthinking Games, a podcast where we talk about what video games can teach us. My name is Dempsey, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts.
My name is Katie. I'm back. I've been gravely ill, and now I am back, and I'm so glad because I needed to hear what Dempsey had to say about dire wolves, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm also here and unfortunately back because I was forced to listen to Dempsey's thoughts on dire wolves.
Yeah. So Katie's back from the dead. She decided to have pneumonia for a month and could not record. And also, worst of all, could not play video games, which why even be sick at that point?
Right? What's the point of missing work if you can't play video games all day?
That's probably the most true thing anybody's ever said.
So, Katie, do you want to? We're talking about gender. Today is May 22nd. I feel like I said the date. We're talking about gender. I'm very excited. As a man, I feel like I have a lot to say about this topic. Katie, what have you been playing this week?
Let's see. I have been playing. I've been playing a little Warzone, obviously. Battle Royale Casuals is still my go-to. It's been fun. I've also been playing Citizen Sleeper 2, which I had started, I think, the last time that I was on the show. But I am apparently still only in the first third, according to Dempsey. It's really, really good, though. I'm really enjoying it. It is books level boring in the best possible way, and it incorporates the tabletop dice mechanics in a really fun way. And I feel like the second game has grown on the first, like has developed from the first game in a way that is actually adding to it and not just like, you know how sometimes sequels, they change things for the sake of it, and you're like, why did you do that? No, I feel like they're actually expanding on it in a really awesome way. So I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then
So I have a couple. Hold on. I
ahead.
have a couple questions because I've finished Citizen Sleeper. The listeners, the loyal listeners, would have already heard my opinions on it. How do you feel about the jobs mechanic and the multiple locations mechanic? Because those are like the biggest changes, I would say.
Like the contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think the multiple locations stresses me out because I am such a completionist with games like this that I'm afraid of going somewhere and missing something. If I leave too soon, I'm like, oh no, I didn't do absolutely everything that I could do in this place, and now I've gone somewhere else. Will I ever come back? And it seems like sometimes yes, sometimes no. And then the contracts, I really enjoy them. The only problem I have is that sometimes it doesn't matter like who you bring. Like you just don't have the right skills for the job. And it's a little bit annoying sometimes. Like the first time I played, I didn't understand how like the dice mechanics worked for this, like in the new game. And so I actually ended up breaking all of my dice because I racked up all of this stress and stuff. So it was like a little bit of a learning curve, but now that I'm getting the hang of it, I think it's really a fun add of like complexity.
I did the same exact thing. And what I will say is that I think as you build up crew members, the strategy becomes a lot more obvious.
Oh, okay.
I think as you build up crew members and as you upgrade your own character, you build a much richer tapestry of people who compensate for you. That's just my opinion,
Okay.
though.
Yeah.
So there's something I want to tell you about this game. It's not a spoiler.
Okay.
So, and I told Seth this, and the listeners would have heard this. The creator of this game, Jump Over, like whatever, I don't know. Well, the creator of the game, the developer, whose name I knew at one point, on Blue Sky said that because of like the far right, like Elon Musk specifically, Republican enthusiasm for Mars and like Jeff Bezos and like billionaires in space and things like that, he is going to stop writing sci-fi set in space because he doesn't want to present it as a possibility for humans. And so he says that this is his last space sci-fi adventure.
Okay, that's fucking stupid. Wait, so only the assholes get to have space stories? Are you fucking kidding me?
Dempsey said the same thing.
That's like, okay, assholes, you can have space, I guess. No, we get to have space. Space is not just for fascists.
That was literally exactly the thing that I told Seth. I was like, this is a really disappointing response from like one of my favorite sci-fi authors.
I'm so upset.
I know. It really changed my relationship to the game, actually. Like, it genuinely, like, I learned about it, like, maybe 2/3 way through my playthrough. I checked his Twitter, and then he retweeted an article about Musk, and said that because of Musk, he's not going to write sci-fi anymore. And, like, it really did impact how I felt about the game as I was playing. I just wanted to give you that same experience now, I guess.
Misery loves company. Thanks, Dempsey. No, it doesn't change. Like, I don't think it changes my interaction with the current game, but it upsets me because I want more. And why shouldn't they keep making more awesome games that are 100% critiques and commentary on things like astronomical corporate greed and fascism and all of these things? Why would you stop yourself from having a platform to discuss these things and criticize these things? Okay, whatever. Okay, it's a choice. I'm so mad. No, maybe he'll change his mind. Maybe he's just going through a bit of a phase and he's gonna like,
It's a lot of copium.
He's coping, and then he'll come through the other side of it and be like, actually, space belongs to the non-fascists.
Space belongs to the non-fascists.
Yep, you heard it here first, folks. Oh my god. Okay,
Can't wait
well,
for space fascism.
I mean,
We
we've
like
had
knock
space-
their own toe in.
I feel like fascism and space go pretty hand in hand, though. Like that's like one of the first things that we introduced to space narratives was fascism.
That's
Star Wars, right?
yeah, it's true.
It's
What about Starship Troopers? Nice colonialism going on there.
I mean,
Anyway.
Starship Troopers has a lot going on, but
Yeah, it does. Anyway, thanks for that, Dempsey. The other thing that I've been playing is Hexatile Sort, and it is a phone game that I love. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Hexasort Master. They're all different names like that, but Hexasort Master is the best one because I'll tell you why. They have these great challenges that you can do all the time. So the first one is a race. And so if you've like these hexatile games, you are literally just matching like these hex shaped tiles, and if they're the same color, they do this very satisfying like tile movement and sound and everything, and then if you have 10 or whatever, they disappear, and it's just like a little puzzle phone game. But Hexasort Master has this racing dash where you play against real players, and you try to beat like 5 levels first, and then the next round is like 10 levels first, and so you're trying to beat levels faster than other people. And then there's another one that's called Polar Survival, and you try to beat 7 levels without losing a level, and if you do that, you get all of these coins, and you can use the coins to like shuffle your tiles and stuff in case you get stuck. And of course you could spend real money and buy coins and stuff, but where's the fun in that? So I have been in my invalid state playing an alarming amount of Hexasort Master. I am on level 897. And it has kept me occupied over the last month. And it's really fun, and I just love it. So if you guys need a phone game to obsess over and to win on fake leaderboards, Hexasort Master is really good. Seth, what have you been playing?
I feel like a little bit of a broken record at this point. I feel like I say I play the same shit every week.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Balloon Tower Defense 5?
I'm literally playing Balloons Tower Defense 6 right now.
Oh yeah, 6. Sorry, wrong one.
I think part of the problem is that it's just okay. So I've run into this a couple times. A few times now, I've sat down and been like, I don't know what I want to play. And I'm like, maybe I should get a new game. And then I'm like, wait, Elden Ring Night Rain comes out in like a week. And
there is no way you've played all the games in your Steam library.
No, 100% I have not.
Okay.
But like, there's nothing I want to play.
In his thousands of games in the library.
Hey, it's not thousands. It's actually a good question. It's only 395. Okay.
Oh. Weak.
So I sit down and I'm like, I don't know what I want to play. Maybe I should get a new game. And then I look at my wish list for a bunch of games I could play. And then I go, wait, Night Rain comes out soon. And then I'm like, I should probably save some money. Plus the Switch 2 is coming out. So I'm
Are
like,
you going to get that?
Yeah, probably.
Lame.
I mean, I told...
Can't even run a gaming podcast.
We do run a gaming podcast.
I know, but like, Nintendo.
What's that mean? I love Nintendo.
They make the best games in the world. What?
They say they make the best games in the world, but
No,
did
I
make
say
Citizen
they
Sleeper?
do. What
No,
are
they
you
didn't.
talking about?
Do they make critical space commentary games? No, they don't.
Have you played? have you played Mario Galaxy?
I mean, yeah, that one was pretty good.
That's what I thought. okay, so regardless, I haven't been buying new games. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of Bloons Tower Defense, which is, I mean, honestly has been fun. I've been kind of like grinding out achievements, which is something that I didn't traditionally do with Bloons. I was just kind of like casually played and like worked on maps or whatever. So like actually pushing myself to like, oh, like try all the different bosses and do like the time trial stuff has been kind of cool. I get to experience like more of the game than I just like what I'm comfortable with. Has been kind of cool.
Cool.
Otherwise, let's see. I have been playing a lot of Borderlands 3. Borderlands 4 is also set to release sometime this year, question mark. So that's sort of, I was like, I should probably do like another playthrough of Borderlands 3 before that comes out, because I only ever really played through it like once or twice. And that's been fun. I mostly like skip through all of the dialogue and cutscenes because that game needed like 3 more drafts in the writer's room. But the gunplay is a lot of fun, so it's hard to complain about that. I have like a D&D game. I wrote a tabletop game for some friends a little while back because
like with new rules or like with D&D mechanics, but in the like
No, I took 2 different games. One of which is a skirmish game. So like I play a lot of Warhammer, so Warhammer's a war game. So skirmish games are just like small scale war games. So I took rules that we play a lot called Space Weirdos, and I like added some mechanics from one of my favorite like micro RPGs to give it like roleplay background. Like the long story short is getting into D&D fucking sucks if like people have never played before. Mm-hmm. You spend like 3 hours just being like, okay, what character does everybody want to play? Here's how stats work. Here's like how skills and abilities work.
It's a lot of onboarding.
Like, yeah, like there's a literal like onboarding process for D&D. And I was like, people just want to play D&D. And I'm not going to spend like multiple hours of my life writing up like character sheets just for us to like play a one shot of D&D and then never do it again. So instead I just wrote a custom tabletop game. AKA I did infinitely more work than just writing up character sheets. But it was fun. So that I have to like finish doing. But that's been a lot of fun. It is also just like cool. The end of the school year.
For real.
For everybody. I forget you said what day it is, but it's like the end of the school year. So I'm also just kind of like, I don't really want to do anything right now other than just kind of be done.
Mm-hmm. Tomorrow is the last day of school.
I still have a week left. Katie is making me jealous, but that's okay. Don't ham me.
I had to. I actually created, I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast. I created a card game that goes along with a book series that I read with my students called Among the Hidden by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And I created a tabletop card game / dice game. And then I got pneumonia and I didn't even have time to do it with the kids.
That's so sad.
I was so disappointed.
That's terrible.
I know.
But yeah, I as far as I can remember. Oh, I got Balatro on my phone. Because we had a party at my place like last weekend. And my one friend's girlfriend, I guess, it like started playing Balatro and she was having fun with it. And I was like, oh yeah, I've actually played like a good chunk of Balatro. And then literally my best friend was like, hey, handshake bet on you getting a million chip hand in Balatro on your first run. And I went, fucking bet. And then I did it. So then I was like, damn, Balatro's kind of fun. So I downloaded it on my phone.
That seems like it could be dangerous.
It does. Luckily, we're at the end of the school year, so I can't distract myself that much. And it's a lot easier.
Slay the Spire on your phone?
No, that was the other game. It was either Slay the Spire or Balatro on my phone. And I went like...
Slay the Spire is too dangerous.
Problem is I've played so much Slay the Spire. I'm kind of like, I have to play it with mods. It's like how most people are with Skyrim. Like if I'm not playing like a way over modded Slay the Spire, like I'm probably not going to enjoy it. I've probably ruined it for myself. But anyway, that's about it. I hopefully once like Night Rain comes out, I should have like better commentary. Oh, also after our last week's podcast, we'll talk about some blueprints as well. If you were angry at us for our last blueprints episode because you played blueprints and you were like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. Good news, I looked up a lot of puzzle solutions and I would not have fucking solved any of them. So, well, see, now I can't talk about it because Katie's here.
Does it, let me ask you this, does it open up more?
It does. Okay. There's a lot of post game, which is not really a spoiler. You could have guessed that. There's a lot of post game that I don't understand. Like Dempsey, you told me to go watch a lore video. I did, and I literally knew nothing that was in the lore video, despite having played this game for I think probably like 12 to 14 hours. So
yeah,
if that's any indication.
That was 100% my experience because I probably put around 8 hours into this game, and I turned on the lore video, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck is any of this?" Yeah.
I got a little bit of it, but there's a lot of the like end post game stuff that I don't know if I had really wanted to like grind out the post game, but I sort of feel the same way about this game that you felt about Hades. Like I kind of beat it and then I went like, great, I don't want to play this anymore. Except the main reason I didn't want to play it is because there was not really any more roguelite to experience. It was just puzzles, and I think I was in the game less for the puzzles than I thought I was.
I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah, well, and Katie, you'll experience this, but like Blueprints is definitely like a great game. It's a fantastic roguelike. I really like the roguelike elements of it. I think I just don't care for the puzzle elements as much. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the puzzles I just found like needlessly frustrating and like very dense. And
so I'm probably gonna love it.
You will. My experience of like looking up the solutions to the puzzles I didn't understand usually amounted to like there's a detail in a photograph in a specific room that I missed that's not obvious unless if you have a specific other item. And I already looked at that photograph and with the item, and I just missed it the first time. Like I would never have gone back to have solved it. And that puzzle was a key to unlocking the entirety of the post game. So that was cool. But anyway, Dempsey, what have you been playing this week?
I have been playing more Death Stranding. Katie, have you played Death Stranding?
I have not, but I do own it. So it's on the list.
So eagle-eared listeners will have heard me talk about this last week. It has opened up quite a bit. It has introduced combat. But it doesn't sand off or smooth any of the other complicated mechanics of the game. So now, now it's the same amount of tedious horribleness, but there's also combat.
Oh, good.
So like you're trying to balance yourself. And if you get shot, you lose health. But more frustratingly is that you lose packages that you have to go and pick up at some point. And then the packages could be damaged. And so like, it's the same, like you're going to fall over if you don't balance yourself. You can trip over things really easily. Like all of the same, like there's nothing that's streamlined when you get to combat mode. It's exactly the same density, and also now you have a gun.
Katie, are you familiar with the internet game QWOP? QWOP. It's where you're a little runner and you have to click the letters in order to move their legs.
No.
Never mind. That was going to be my relationship to how Dempsey describes this game.
It's not, yeah, except you don't control the legs, you control the arms.
No, I mean, I say it in an exaggerated fashion, but
yeah.
I see how it works, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's sort of how I imagine Dempsey describing the game.
It's not, the idea is not far off. Like it's kind of in that same vibe. And yeah, so it's been that element, the combat element has hit me rougher than I was expecting. Cause like, obviously I've played combat in video games before, but I've never had to worry about like not falling over. like that's the insane part of this game. Or like, let's say you want to take like guns, right? So you actually have to physically have your guns, your health, and your grenades, and any packages that you're carrying, or any like mission critical objects, like physically in boxes on your body. And so like, it's not like you can just go in with no equipment so you can be stealthy and things like that. Because in order to be successful, you're like carrying all this shit around. And so you have to like balance like how agile do I want to be and what do I think is a minimum amount of equipment that I can get away with. And because the game throws a lot of elements at you that you're not expecting, it teaches you to be prepared. Like it teaches you to like go slow, have a lot of equipment, plan for contingencies, and then the combat really punishes you for doing all of the things that the game teaches you. And I think it's such incredible game design. It's like, I am loving this game so much. It's very tedious, very obtuse, and like comically so. Yeah,
I was gonna say
it's very melodramatic, very cinematic. I don't know. I'm loving it. Katie, I think you would love Death Stranding.
Probably.
You should play Death Stranding. So do you know the main mechanics?
Well, I know that you are a package delivery person and you are trying to like go across this wasteland, basically.
Yes. So it's a metaphor for America, except it does not look like America. It looks like Iceland. And basically like you can trip over rocks if you're not careful. And also you can fall over if you don't balance your character properly. And so like that's the main mechanics of the game. And then it throws on elements like stealth. Which so like you're like in the grass on this natural landscape and you're like crouching, right? And normally like in Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that, that'd be a pretty natural thing to do. But in this game, you're like, oh, I could trip over a rock while I'm trying to sneak around and then lose all my package. While I'm trying to like stealth around this enemy encampment. It's like it's the funniest thing in the world to make like a non-dexterous main character. Like that's kind of what this is. It's like looking at like the traditional model of combat and being like, but what if like he was clumsy and building a game around that.
It sounds like the gamification of me trying to bring everything in from the car in one trip and getting my keys out of my pocket and into the door without dropping anything.
Yes, that is 100% the vibes of Death Stranding.
Okay.
Yeah. And so but also you rely like the combat. I'm really happy that it has combat. First of all, because it's insane. Like there'll be like the demons and the enemy. Also, the guy that plays Joel is in this. What's his name? He's like the one voice actor in video games.
The guy, yeah. The guy. I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name. I know he was Indiana Jones. He plays like half of all video game characters.
Mm-hmm. Like he's all the guys and what Ashley Birch is all the girls.
Yeah. Troy Baker. So
Troy Baker, yeah.
So Troy Baker is one of those actors that I do not want to have respect for, but I think he's actually a good actor. Like, I feel like because he's oversaturated, and I'm like, he's so famous, and people just kind of stick him in
begrudge
their
him
games.
his success.
Yeah, but he's great. He's so good in this game. He's a villain that can
Dempsey's
kind of
like, yeah, I do.
he kind of like he's a very like Shakespearean, like larger than life villain, and it's fantastic. Anyways, but yeah, so Death Stranding, still an incredible game. So apparently the game time is like a 40-hour game. I'm like 12 hours in. I cannot fathom what this game will be in 40 hours. Like, I have no concept of like how this will evolve, but I'm very excited to check it out.
Cool.
Also, the main character is a boy, so that means this is a boy game. So
okay, good.
we're
Glad we clarified.
Totally.
So, I have been thinking about how gender, like the experience of gender, impacts video games, specifically from. I'm gonna burp. Burping is a boy thing. Specifically from this video, and I talked about it on the podcast, but this video about the Game Awards and how the Game Awards have evolved, and how kind of disgusting they were, and then they've turned into something more like traditional celebration of the artists and things like that. And that really got me to think about like how my gender experience, and also I think gender is such a stupid thing, mostly because philosophers will talk about gender in ways that do not actually mean gender identity or the experience of people with gender, but like they use like masculine and feminine and like these stand-ins for like vague relationships that like aren't really like that you can vaguely map onto populations, but like I don't know. I really hate how philosophers talk about gender because it doesn't feel connected to like.
We need to also build the connection for a second. The Dempsey just doesn't like philosophy. He's coming from a bit of a biased background.
We've learned that today, in fact.
Yes,
yeah.
Pre-podcast.
This was pre-podcast discussion.
Yeah, and
It's
so
like, if you can't prove or disprove what you're talking about, I don't want none of what you're talking about.
yeah, that's kind of. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, but the thing is, it's that it's not that something is provable or disprovable. Because I love narrative and art, which is not provable at all, right? It's all subjective emotions. What philosophy does is parade around as if it is truth, as if they are looking for truth. That's what philosophers, I want to get close to truth. What is truth? Which is a bullshit question for philosophers to ask. Because as soon as something becomes falsifiable, it ceases to become philosophy. Anyways, so, the point is that philosophers will talk about gender, like masculine and feminine gender, in ways that abstract these concepts so much that like you can't map them onto real human experiences anymore, which I think is very annoying. So all that to say, like, there are different ways in which society conceptualize gender, like gender as like the social identity, gender as like what you feel internally, and then like gender as like these philosophical language of gender, which you can kind of just say whatever you want. And so
Thank God.
and so I've been thinking about like, first of all, what does it mean for gaming to be like, I don't know if gaming is still male centric. I think people who do not play video games have this perception that video games are very male centric. I think people that actually play video games maybe have a more nuanced perspective of that. But like, and I think like a lot of it has to do with like video games focused on the external world. So like it's a lot more action based, a lot more violence based, because everything has to be externalized, and like things like fail states and things like that. So I think the mechanics of game design, and who's to say like, and maybe it was like very male centric, and then that's why it developed that way, rather than it developed that way and then became male centric because it, like who chicken and egg situation. I don't know, but like, so like, I guess, what do you think? how much of your gender do you feel like you bring to gaming experiences? I will give an example. I think and maybe this is more of a sexuality thing than a gender thing, but I think playing Death Stranding, the characters are gendered, and there's not a romanticness to it, but there is like some kind of tension between you and a main character, and like the gender dynamics absolutely play into that tension. And she's a woman, she's a video game woman, and like the fact that she's a woman, even though it's not like talked about specifically, it still very much obviously impacts how you're meant to feel about her, how the main character feels about her. If it was a man playing that role, it would be extraordinarily homoerotic. like the way they touch each other, the way they move around each other, how close their faces get to each other, like all of these things that are intense and intimate and vulnerable, even though if they're not explicitly romantic, there is still like this sense of like sensuality and tension kind of in they're roughly the same age, they're attractive people on screen, and it's a Kojima game, so everything is heightened. So like, and so I think like, like that experience is different because it is gendered. And because I feel like as a man, my experience with women has created a vocabulary to understand the main character's experience with women. So even when it's just like being touched on a shoulder unexpectedly and it's by a woman, like that I think that's a gendered experience that the main character is feeling a certain way about because he's a man. And we're using the similar social vocabulary to understand what that character's experience is. And so in that way, I think I am bringing my gender to this game because the game, I think, is from a male lens. I think it's made for a predominantly male audience. And I think that the experience that he's having is made for men to empathize with, specifically how men relate to women, like women that they like and are attracted to and want to be around. So that way I'm bringing, I guess, both my gender and sexuality to it. Okay. Anyways, but so how much of that gender, I guess it could be gender and sexuality, but how much of your gender do you feel like you bring to the games that you play?
I think that's a really interesting point that you just made. Before I answer the question, just to touch on what you were saying, I completely understand what you're saying about the fact that it's a male character and a female character, there is an inherent tension, like you're saying, because the lens is of a like heteronormative interaction. Yeah. We're assuming that this tension exists because one's a man, one's a woman. Yeah. Whereas if it were, like you said, two men, it wouldn't be the same at all. And that's definitely like the perception of that is being shaped by us as like the observers.
Yes.
For sure. So yeah, I think that's interesting. I think for myself, like going into games as a woman, like a lot of games do have female protagonists, but more games don't. More games have male protagonists, especially when I was growing up, in high school and stuff. And so a lot of the times the interactions between male characters and female characters, I would be like, here we go. Here we go again. Okay. Yep.
I know where this is going.
Exactly. Like, all right. And so as games have, I think, evolved to be more varied, it's actually a very interesting, like in Baldur's Gate, where everybody loves everybody, and it's very open. Sure. And and that tension exists between all the characters, really. Sure. I think it's interesting.
So this brings, so I have a question, Katie. So let's say you take something like, so do you feel like Baldur's Gate as a boy game or a girl game, do you feel like it is truly gender neutral, or do you feel like because it's a violent action centered experience that makes it a masculine themed game that you can play a female protagonist in? Like do you think that games, like, I guess do you feel like violence is inherently masculine, or do you feel like action is masculine? Like when you were thinking about like the gender of games and how gender affects games, because I think like even games that don't have gender necessarily, like Unpacking, for example, which doesn't have any human characters. I think that the protagonist is a woman, but like the fact that that's a non-violent game, that's not action heavy, that's more puzzly, I think people would associate that more of like being a female game.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with that. Well, personally as somebody who plays both kinds of games and has always played both kinds of games, I really abhor the idea of like girl games and boy games, like, because I like all of the games, and sorry, Dempsey.
Katie's dying.
I have to edit that one out. But as somebody who plays both kinds of games and enjoys both kinds of games, I think it does a disservice to all of the boys out there who could really enjoy games that don't have action or violence if they didn't feel like there was some sort of societal stigma, like, oh, I can't play Unpacking, it's got pastels. Like, that's ridiculous. But I think that personally, like, Baldur's Gate it's got something for everybody, right? It's because it's D&D, so it has the action side for those who like it, and it has the more emotional or more cerebral side for those who like it. And so it's really, I think, it's a they game, you know? It's a they game.
It's a they-them game.
It's a they-them game. Yeah.
What about you, Seth?
100%.
I don't know. I mean, I have the viewpoint as a very straight white man, right? I bring a kind of wasp energy to the podcast that the other two of you can't say. Am I wrong?
No.
So I don't know. I mean, it's not something.
Bisexuals and a wasp.
What? God forbid a man use the term for something. Anyway, so it's not something really I thought about. I mean, do I think about, like, have I thought about boy games versus girl games? Not really. I guess aside from the sort of general idea that, right, there is like a I don't know if it's social pressure as much as, right, like the societal norm, I think, Katie, you mentioned, that would like trend me towards a specific game, right? Like growing up, I had like a little green army man RTS game for the GameCube, and you know, my neighbors down the street had like some Barbie horse game. Little girls down the street. So like, and that's a sort of obvious example of this dynamic between like boys versus girls games. But right, I was also not the purchaser of the games though. Neither were they.
Sure.
So, you know, is that commentary from my parents, I guess, or
I guess so. Okay. So what, I guess one of the things that I'm interested in is, do you feel when people say that video games are like a male dominated medium, or like the like video games cater more towards males, like men, do you think that is because video games make games that men like, or do you feel like that is because the video game industry has been actively hostile towards women? Like which of those? Okay, Katie has a opinion.
Okay, so like somewhere this, if you look at the stats, like literally nearly 50% of gamers are women.
Sure.
So the fact that women, I mean, and it used to be, if I remember correctly, way back in the day, that like women were more into the STEM side of things, and then we, in like careers and stuff, and then we kind of got shoved out. and it became like this male dominated field, and men are good at science and men are good at math, and women need to not be, women aren't good at those things and women aren't interested in those things and blah blah blah. And I think with video games, I mean 50% of gamers are women, so obviously half of the player base, half of their customer base. But for some reason, like, there's this like fantasy that boys are gamers and girls are not gamers. And sure. I don't understand it, honestly, from like a marketing point of view, because wouldn't you want to reach that other 50% of your fan base? But I know growing up, like, well, let's put it this way. Even today, when I play Call of Duty, I run into lots of little kids playing Call of Duty without parental supervision who should have parental supervision. I have never, to my knowledge, run into a little girl. They are always little boys. And I just think that's so weird. I'm like, where are my girls at? Because they're going to grow up and they're going to play Call of Duty, but when they're, 12 or 13 or whatever, they're told that it's not for them. And it's not until they're older or until they have a brother who introduces them. Like, I had a brother that introduced me to shooters and was always very open and like always let me play. But there's a lot of girls that don't run into that, and that it's a lot less welcoming. Why? I don't know.
So, okay. So, like, I guess, so do you think like, do you feel like your experience or identity, however you want to chop up gender, I don't think I exist, so I think the term identity is a nonsense term because I don't think I exist as a person. So I would say my experience has been as a man. I don't necessarily identify as a man because that assumes that I exist, which I don't think I exist. So okay. I would say I might express my gender, but I don't know if I identify as anything. So
it can neither be proven or disproven whether you exist, and thus that is your philosophy.
Yeah, that's a wild line. I express this, but I don't know if I really identify as it, because I don't really know if I identify as anything.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I think. So do you feel like you bring elements of your experience of your gender to playing Call of Duty?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Like, okay, so like, for example, how I talked about like Death Stranding, like how because it was made for the male experience and it's through the male POV, and there's a woman who's an object of tension at the very least. Maybe not desire, but like this, she's meant to be a woman that you would, maybe guys would be nervous to if they talk to in real life. Like, she's meant to be an attractive woman, an action hero person that you're excited when she shows you attention. And I think that's part of the narrative of the story, where even though it's like there's suspicion and there's like, do I trust this woman and is she going to hurt me? It's still exciting because any attention from a woman is exciting for a man. Right. And so like, and also, and like I would say also in like the Souls games, when like your healing or upgrade person is a woman, that's different than if it was a man. Like that tenderness,
like that nurturing,
yes, and that nurturingness, sort of, and something that, whether through our partners or through our mothers or whatever, like that tenderness where it builds you up and things like that. Like, I think that's a really gendered experience that Souls games, I don't think it's bad that they use it. I think it's an archetype that they use it to communicate information really efficiently. In the fact that this is a maternal character, she's the one that you go to reset your stats and things like that. And so like, I think my experience, and Ben, because I am also as a man, which is very funny because I grew up thinking that video games were very feminine, because I grew up in a very rural community, and so anything that was based in like technology or art was just gay. And so I actually did not have this like connotation that video games were male centric hobby until I was an adult. I didn't, like, that was just not a cultural experience of mine. I always grew up, video games were very feminine coded. And so this has been kind of a learning experience over the last 10 years for me. But I do think that like my perspective as a man, I bring into like Disco Elysium. I think like the fact that the character is really bad at his job and has an addiction that stifles him from doing his job well. I think when I bring my gender identity to that story, a lot of men define themselves by how good they are at their jobs. And so I think that's different because you kind of have the expectation that even K, or whatever his name is, like the good cop, like his identity is still primarily in his job. And so him being good at his job says something about how secure he is in his masculinity. And so I think that there's a lot of these elements that from my gender experience, I will, like Citizen Sleeper, for example, the character's inability to look after their partner. I think that's, I don't think it's intended to be specifically a gendered lens, but I do think that if the character, as a man, that feels emasculating, being in a position where you are incapacitated, unable to take care of your partner, and your partner is in need, which is something that happens in Citizen Sleeper 2. And that feels like you're like, as a man, if you were in that position, that's a failing state that you want to overcome. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that as a woman you want to overcome that, but I'm saying that there is something gendered about the male expectation, specifically, I think, in in those kind of narratives. So just like as far as like how you bring, so like, do you feel like you connect your experiences or expectations to perform your gender to how you play games? Does this make sense at all?
Yeah, it does. No, it does make sense. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you for explaining. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. I definitely think so, especially in anything with an RPG where I'm making relationship choices.
Okay.
And this is, I mean, whether it's because I'm a woman or it's just my personality or what, but I would tend to, like in Citizen Sleeper, I am always super nice and super like supportive and like trying to meet the needs. I don't want to make the people that I care about feel bad in any way, right? It's like that social conditioning to try to smooth things over and to please and to make things nice and easy for people. And I'm sure that lots of men feel that way as well, but I definitely note that in anything where it's like a relationship, like, wait, I'm not going to say it this way because I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want him to feel bad about this. It's not his fault. Like, it's okay. Like,
sure.
Just want to help support him in that. Or like in Baldur's Gate as well. Like, and the part of that is because I've chosen a character who is a good guy, like a paladin. So I'm a nice person and I love children and shadow puppets. Excuse me. Sorry. But I also run into it when it comes to, especially like Japanese RPGs, where I'm supposed to like certain characters and I don't because of the way that the genders are displayed or presented. Like in Persona 5, you play as Joker, who's like a teenage boy, and all of the girls are kind of like his little vacuous, like little vassals. And the very first mission that you do is to expose this teacher who's like a sexist asshole who's, exploiting his female students. And like the game says, that's very bad. We don't like that. And then in the very like next mission, they make the same exploited character like be naked in order to complete the next mission. And I was like, the fuck is this shit? Like, and it was so off-putting to me that I found it really hard to be invested in the story for like the rest of the game because they completely just cut me off from kind of the heart of the story with the way that they portrayed that. Which, I don't know, maybe men would feel the same way, but personally, like, I was like, fuck this. These people are awful. I don't like them at all.
Sure. What about you, Seth?
So, like, I'm sitting here trying to like relate some sort of game experience I've had here.
What is a gender experience of playing Balloon Tower Defense 6?
Yeah, I mean, there's not, right? Like, you're playing Tower Defense. I could make something up. But I think I guess there's more in terms of like how our like choices and personality and our interests are like shaped by identity.
Sure.
So a lot of my like college work, especially in like some of my last ed classes, was a lot of identity work. And one of the primary things that an assignment that stands out to me is our professor wanted us to list out our identities. So like write a paper where you talk about how you identify, but not just like gender and sexuality, but like you have a sort of cascading series of identities.
Sure.
In a lot of different ways. Like I'm a teacher and that's an identity. Like I'm a man, that's an identity. I'm white, that's an identity. I'm Christian, that's an identity, right? I go by Seth. That's quite literally an identity.
Sure.
But it's an important part of who I am is literally my first name. And I've talked about this experience, I don't think on the podcast, but I've talked about this experience in terms of like finding it very interesting going my whole life being Seth to now I'm Mr. Wilcox. And that was a very odd like shift. A sort of a shift in my experience as a man, right? Mr. Wilcox has quite literally always been my father and is now me. And that's right. Like there's a joke there, but it's true, right? Like my dad, my whole life has been Mr. Wilcox and now I'm Mr. Wilcox. And I'm really just the most recent Mr. Wilcox in a long line of Mr. Wilcox. But I don't think it's a coincidence that like when I play an RPG, the kind of character class I'm usually drawn to is like a paladin. Why is that? I feel like I have a strong religious identity. The sort of like character traits associated with paladins are the like healing and protecting and supporting a party are sort of the things that I also feel strongly about, both as like sort of as a religious identity, but also I guess as like a masculine one. And so I don't think it's a coincidence for myself particularly that I'm like drawn to that. How does that like relate to a larger gameplay experience is I think hard to establish for me. Like I don't think I ever felt really strongly as a kid that like I was having a gendered experience playing games. I think I had like of my few female friends, they like lived down the street and they also played video games. So I think I viewed it a little bit less as like a specific experience. But also in this same class where we talked about gender and identity, I don't think I realized other people existed until like 7th or 8th grade.
Right.
Like I didn't realize anybody else had like a unique experience from my own until probably like a little too late in my life. So it's hard for me to tell. But I'll say it's interesting now that I live with my girlfriend, which I think the podcast in general knows, but I live with my girlfriend now. And so like her experience though playing games is very different than mine, where like I played a lot of video games growing up and by the sound of it, I think her dad played a lot of video games. You know, my dad played a lot of video games, at least before I was born, which I think sort of led to like my interest in games. But I think it developed differently from her. Like she's played some games like here and there, but probably more what we would consider to be like girl games. Like she's played a lot more of The Sims than I have. She really likes Viva Pinata, which is a game I don't really understand, but it's a game about like you raise pinatas like farm animals. That's cool, I guess.
Sure.
She's played like a little bit of Tomb Raider though. Like she's got some games like scattered in there that I guess are like boy games, but like a lot of the games that she's put a lot of time into are games that I did not put a lot of time into.
Sure.
It's hard to tell again though, is that like a masculine versus feminine experience? Is that a sort of economic experience?
Sure.
You know, we sort of we had like the newest Nintendo console fairly consistently while growing up. Well, it sort of sounds like her family had like an Xbox 360, and that was kind of like it for like the entire time she was like a kid and teen. So
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know where that like line is, but
Do you remember that episode we did a while ago, the one where it was about that article and Dempsey like ripped it apart and shredded it? Well, and it was a lot about like games that are about providing like nurturing and things like that versus games that are about like aggression or destruction or whatever.
Yes. Sure.
I do think that like it would be so interesting to see what the gaming like trends are in different cultures, because I think for, you know, Western society at the very least, as far as I'm familiar, like girls are often brought up to be more gentle natured and to be more quiet and to do more like play with dolls and to take care of things and raised to be that, whereas boys are raised to like be rough and tumble and all whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's obviously like a gross generalization, but generally speaking. And so then it follows then that girls would play those games that allow them to continue to play in those spaces that they've been taught to play in. And boys are going to continue to play in the spaces they've been taught to play in. But I think inherently, I don't think that the violence of a game or action of a game makes it like I don't think in reality, I don't think it affects whether men or women will enjoy it or not. Just depends on the person. But I think that the rise of female protagonists in action games has started, I think, to, and I could be talking out of my ass, but I think it has started to create a crossover, opening the door for women to play more action-based games. And maybe even, and I'm not sure about this, but maybe even like saying, hey, this is a space where everyone can play. You guys can play unpacking. It's okay to play unpacking, even if you have a penis. Maybe, you know?
maybe.
But
So this is something that this is something I kind of wanted to work towards in this conversation. And this is where I don't want this to feel too personal or anything like that. But I will say, as someone who does not believe I exist, right? I feel like my connection to my identity as a man is entirely through convenience. I have been socialized as one. I think if I grew up in a radically different culture with radically different expectations, I would associate being a man with different things. Like I feel like my connection to my gender identity is entirely socially constructed, and is out of convenience. And growing up as one of the only boys in my school that did theater, and I went into elementary education, which I was the only man in my classes for a lot of things. And he's always worked in like female dominated fields, whether that's education or marketing or social services. I think I feel like my connection to my gender is loose when it's fun and convenient for it to be loose. Like I think it's a useful tool, and what I would like video games to be, and I don't know if video games can ever be this. I don't know if this is a correct statement, but what I would like video games to be is spaces where you can kind of explore the experiences and the the pace of people who have found other identities to be useful. And so like the idea of having, like when I was in my early 20s, the idea of having very feminine experiences in games was very attractive to me, because that felt like a very safe area where I could have experiences that both felt very personal and intimate and artistically fulfilling, and also were very like freeing of kind of the gender that I've found myself stuck in. And so I think for me, that's like, and Celeste deals with that specifically about how you see yourself and the trying to find empathy with yourself through simulated experiences. And I think, I don't know, I think that video games have the potential to give people space to be playful with how they express themselves within these identities that I feel like are mostly socially constructed and were built out of like some kind of utility, but don't necessarily have to be as constricting as maybe we. And I talked about this a little bit on like character creation, where I was like, I think the expectations of like my gender to be tedious at times, and games kind of give me the ability to break that in a way that does not have complicated social consequences. And so that's I guess like that's one of the things I find really enjoyable about video games when I have that opportunity. I don't think that's necessarily the main way I interact with games, but it's definitely something that I feel is very important about how I interact with games.
There's a experience that I've just remembered, which is I think I meant to talk about it at some point in the history of the podcast, but very much back in the day, I can't remember. Sometime in middle school, I'm sure. I used to play a lot of like Minecraft online. Like, we're talking 2012, 2013 or something. I was playing a lot of like random Minecraft servers. I had this one that I would like regularly go on, and like Minecraft skins were like sort of a bigger deal back in the day. Like we're in early Minecraft history, right? We're in the first like couple of years of like Minecraft sort of being big. And I had this like Minecraft skin of this like, I don't know how best to describe it, because you kind of had to be there. It's the equivalent of like a scene chick Minecraft skin.
Okay.
But was like elfy.
Okay.
And there's some other sort of social commentary that's there for later in my life. But there was something, I think, compelling to me at the time to be able to like be behind be behind this screen of anonymity, and to sort of be able to say like, I'm in a virtual space completely separate from the real world, and I would like to build myself a treehouse and identify as some like female elf in this game world.
Sure.
And as a sort of point of expression, right? Because there is this, I think, is it like a masculine thing that we're sort of like, especially like Katie, you deal with middle school boys a lot, right? Like middle school boys are very locked into like having to act a specific way or else you're gay.
Yeah.
So
and if you're gay, it's the worst thing in the world.
It's the worst thing in the world to be gay if you're a middle school boy.
Some of you statistically are. Please calm down.
Right. And so like being able to sort of explore an identity space in a safe space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was interesting, because that was like a decision I made one day. It was just to be like, this is how I would like to be identified now. And luckily there was just very nice people on the internet who were like, yeah, man, whatever. Like if you do you, like, and that was very nice of them. Right. And that's not like an experience I would have been able to have in the real world.
Sure.
And that's probably my most gendered Minecraft experience. Most gendered
who knew? I wouldn't have
experience I can think
expected.
about. But yeah, no, and I like
a gendered experience in Minecraft. But yeah,
right. But it's less the fact distinctly that it's Minecraft, and more the fact that it's a sort of like sandbox space
representation of yourself as well in a space. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of build your own avatar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you can sort of identify however you want, regardless of like the societal expectation of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I think for me, because male is the assumed default in any
Sure.
like online experience that I've had, I've always very strongly gravitated towards female avatars or female accessories, like female coded accessories, anything that I can put on my virtual character to indicate, like, nope, I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
Yeah,
Because if I don't, I know that the automatic expectation is that I'm a boy. And I'm like, no, I'm a girl.
Sure.
I'm here. So I think in like something like Call of Duty, the only reason that there is any kind of gendered experience in that game is because of the toxic online community and the way that people speak to each other in those games. If I
Sure.
was playing by myself with bots, there'd be nothing to it. I'd be my female little avatar with my little cat ears and going around kicking ass, and it wouldn't matter. But as soon as I'm not in that vacuum and I'm dealing with other players and they're like, oh my God, it's a girl, get her. Or like, get back in the kitchen or whatever bullshit. Or can I have your number? Or whatever bullshit. You know, like even if they're not mean, it's still usually not
Sure.
great.
Sure.
Then it becomes this adversarial like experience of having to prove that I deserve the space there and that it shouldn't be a big deal.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. But that's only if I played just solo. It's never like that, you know? So, stupid online people.
Okay. Well, I think that kind of touches on a lot of things I want to talk about. I think we'll come back to this topic at some point again.
Yeah.
I think it's very rich. I want to try to figure out how to talk about the idea of boy games and girl games because I think there's something there. I know Katie hates it, but I think that
nothing there,
especially
but yes.
especially how philosophers talk about gender, where they'll talk about like what the masculine achieves and how the masculine views the feminine. Like feminist literature is all about the relationship between the feminine and masculine, and how like feminist literature is all about how the masculine relates to the feminine or how it creates an othering, and then in that othering has created the feminine, or like whatever theory. There's still like roles that these things play, and I think
What about non-binary folks?
yeah,
Like, where do they get to live?
well, that's the thing is I think it's not about people at some point. Like how philosophy talks about gender, it becomes about these kind of really abstracted relationships.
Concepts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think like Last of Us is a really good example that plays with that, I think in really beautiful ways. And really dysfunctional ways, because Ellie becomes her father. And I don't think she becomes less of a woman because she becomes her father. But like if you kind of follow a lot of gender philosophy, you would have to say that because she takes on the role that was provided to her by the masculine. And so you would have to, I don't know, you'd have to say weird things like Ellie becomes less of a woman because of her violence or things like that. Anyways, but so I want to, that's something that's later in line. We are not going to do honorable mentions today because in lieu of that, we have an email that I would like to read out.
Oh, fantastic.
So I was on, and I don't think this episode's going to come out for a while, but I was on the old Switcheroo podcast with Mike and Jay. And it's a very fun podcast that they go through all of the Nintendo Switch Online games. And so if you want to know, like, I think it's fun just to hear their experiences with these games that I have no idea, but I have access to. And so they're kind of going, and they also share features that I did not know were on there. For example, you can do online play even in single player games where when you die, you switch the controllers back and forth between two switches, which I think, yeah, there's so many elements of Nintendo Switch Online that I was not aware of, that also Nintendo never advertises anywhere, but you can do. And so that has been really interesting. Our episode I think will come out in early June or mid-June, and it's about Super Mario World, which is insane that they let me on for that episode, because that is like the SNES game. Like that is
Yeah,
like
I can't wait to listen.
Like that is like the pinnacle of the Super Nintendo entertainment system, and also one of my favorite games ever made. And they've never played it before, and so I've had this history of this game, and it was very fun because they don't like it. They have a lot more problems with it than I do. I think I am blinded by nostalgia. Anyways, so Mike. Sorry, Katie, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say I don't actually hate Nintendo. I'm just being a brat.
Okay.
So Mike actually emailed us about blueprints.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and so I think this is important to read out. So I will read this out. So this is Mike from the old Switcheroo. He listened. So fun, and I think this was the first blueprints episode before he knew that you've played it. So. Fun recent episode. It was super interesting to hear the conversation about blueprints, especially after talking blueprints with Dempsey on the weekend. Oh yeah, me and him talked about it a little bit. He loves it. I think a lot of people loves it. Mike really liked it. And I really hope there's a future episode discussing this once all three of you have played this, because I feel like it may be three different approaches to this game.
This will probably be true.
And it feels in line with Katie's talking about having played, I think, her story, where it was more of a family game, kind of split up into taking notes, like a family of games. And so, yeah, which I agree with. I think it has her story energy, this game.
So should I wait and play it with my mom?
No.
She can take notes with me?
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have been following one of the playtesters of Blueprints, who talking about how to play the game and giving strategies and things like this. And he does talk about how playing with a physical person there, not with a guide, but with a physical person, can really enhance the puzzle solving. And he made a really video essay case for it. So like it was very persuasive. But
so I should play it with my mom this summer.
I do think that it, but also play it before then so you can talk about it soon. I think okay, and then I think so. Anyway, I'm going to read the rest of his email. He says, "I'm going to suspect that Seth will find an easier time of at least some of this than Dempsey, just because I agree with Dempsey that keep tracking of things like the letters within the game would have been useful, and I've screenshotted every note, letter, book that I've encountered in the game up to this point. There's some stuff that only has come together for me because I'm taking notes. So I don't think it's a spoiler to note that broadly there's a bigger picture there. So this is not his writing, it's the fact that I have poor reading skills. So I don't think it's a big spoiler to note that broadly there's bigger picture things than the individual blocks of text that you find. At least personally, there's no way I could have sussed some of it of just by the screenshots and without the notes. Screenshots are important, though. So basically, he's saying that screenshots are an important method of note taking, but they're not enough. And so the way I have been taking notes is just through screenshots. Also, hope that you guys come back and talk about it later, because while I can tell which puzzle Dempsey's talking about, I really want to know what was the specific tool for more exploring. Well, Mike, I can't answer that because Katie's that'd be a spoiler. But once Katie plays the game, I think we'll have maybe a third Blueprints episode where Kate I might dig back into it. I fucking hate that people compare this game to Outer Wilds. If you are one of the people that compare this game to Outer Wilds, you fundamentally misunderstood Outer Wilds. I want you to know that. Anyways, Katie, what's up?
Oh, I was just going to say that since tomorrow is the last day of school, I'm going to have lots of time to play video games. So I'm going to be finishing Citizen Sleeper 2, and then I'll start on Blueprints, and then we can talk about it. I'm so excited.
That's fantastic. So that's if you have any opinions about Blueprints or Citizen Sleeper 2 or Death Stranding, email us in. Mike, thanks for your email.
Or gender.
Yeah. If you have any experience of that you want to share about how gaming relates to gender, I'm really fascinated by this topic. Actually, like it's something that I'm spending a lot of time thinking about.
I feel like we keep cycling back around to it in different episodes, and it really works out because every time we come back to a complex topic like this from a different angle, I feel like we get a little more out of it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this conversation with us as much as we did.
Next week will be someone else's topic. And thanks for playing. Thanks for overthinking.
Thanks for playing.
How do we end episodes?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach us. You can find our email in the show notes. We are on TikTok and Instagram and all of those places. Find us on Spotify. And we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, there we go. I'm glad you ended it.